There's a new article in the Financial Times today about NIO in talks with rivals in order to licensing electric car battery swap technology. And in this video I will tell you more about these rumors and also tell you where I think this will ultimately go in the end. So the article says that the Chinese EV startup NIO is in talks with several other car makers about licensing the battery swapping technology that is at the heart of the group's strategy to win over petrol driving motorists in Europe. And I'm quoting Hui Zhang, who is the European president of NIO, and who is saying that they are holding talks with Chinese and international car groups to open its network for charging stations. And this news can actually also be found in some other articles, for example, the Automotive News Europe, because that one is based on a talk that has just been taken place in Norway. And in this event last week, Hui Zhang told exactly this to the journalists that have been present without actually naming any automakers in specific. So this is how this article is kind of recooking those rumors that have been, well, not the first time that we hear about that NIO is trying to win other OEMs to adopt the battery swapping technology. And the article also outlines the big hurdles here, which are that the other car makers must use the same batteries as NIO's in order to exchange them at swap stations. And so I would take these rumors quite lightly because I think there is not much news to it and not much confirmation other than that NIO is, of course, very open about their battery swapping technology. That's why they have also founded this battery asset management company in which others are able to join if they want to. And then, well, what is here in this article isn't entirely clear whether or not actually other OEMs would really want to swap also at NIO stations. Actually, I think I would doubt that also from a NIO perspective. I think NIO will possibly keep their system closed and maybe allow their mass market vehicle brand, if that one is actually swappable to also swap at NIO stations, if at all. Other than that, I think rather the path that I'm seeing here is only working via licenses and royalties. And I think we may have just seen the first example how this could look like. So in this case, CATL, the battery manufacturer, has launched their own battery swap solution called EvoGo. And it's interesting here, if you look at a little bit more at the battery swap stations, that the designs look somewhat similar here on the left-hand side, CATL on the right-hand side, that's NIO. Both have those battery charging compartments on the left-hand side, then the ability to either drive through or keeping that door here closed, and so you can reverse back in and swap out. And then if you look a little bit more at the actual details here of the swapping, you see similar aspects as well, like for example here the bolts and the way that the car is getting unlocked and how the battery is getting fitted and how the actual battery swapping process in general works. And so based on this example here, where there is not really a cooperation, a direct one, or interoperability here, namely cars that are using swapping for CATL battery swapping stations may not go directly to NIO swap stations and also use the same one. But in order to make this possible and work, CATL may have to use some of the licenses and patents that NIO has come up with during their R&D and could now possibly monetize, because I think there are many different processes necessary, designs necessary for the battery swapping station, for the car platforms itself, for the unlocking mechanisms, for the batteries and so on, that are necessary to actually do battery swapping, and that cannot be easily worked around other than using patents that NIO already owns and is licensing out. And while I wouldn't rule out that there might be some sort of industry consolidation and maybe a more standardized process in the end, as well as a technical standard that is used by a larger number of car manufacturers, that doesn't mean exactly that it needs to be exactly the NIO type of battery and NIO swap station right now, but still I think NIO has the possibility of making money on that. And this I have actually modeled in my NIO business case, and there is one line, if you want to download that one, actually you can join my Patreon, you will get always the most updated version, and you can also see which assumptions I'm taking here in order to come up with those revenues. And I think by 2030, NIO could actually gain around 2% of their entire revenues in such royalties and licenses intakes from other OEMs that are using these patents by NIO. And while this is, it's a couple of billion US dollars, and that's maybe still not a lot of the revenues, but this is of course helping to making the battery swapping R&D and technology more economically feasible and interesting as well. And of course these are recurring revenues and high margins, so I think that is quite interesting in the long run. And this is ultimately how I see NIO actually benefiting from such development in the industry. While at the beginning this may still take a couple of years until some OEMs really make the decision to go down that path. Might be in the first take some local Chinese OEM that don't want to compete on the battery technology themselves, and they may actually opt for a standardization approach, and then maybe also in the future some international OEM actually that see that battery swapping is something that you can't work without in China, and that way also have to implement it for some of their models in order to stay actually competitive, because the infrastructure will be there in China. So this is my quick take on the news. Not too much very concrete right now, still speculation. The overall prospects are there, but they may turn out to be coming in a different way than actually rumored in the news and media here.